Good morning, Cyprus. So today we are going to be moving our learning forward by looking at the life cycle of an amphibian today. Okay, and we're specifically going to look at a frog. Last week you looked at the life cycles of birds and mammals. You looked at some of the similarities and the differences between those. Okay, today we're going to look at an amphibian, and there are some significant differences, okay, in the life cycle of an amphibian. So first of all, what do you notice about these pictures? Okay, so on the left we've got a young, okay, a frog. So a frog starts its life. On the right, we've got the adult. On the left, down here, we've got the young of a dog. And on the right here, we've got an adult dog. Now, what do you notice between these different things here? Okay, well, straight away, they are extremely different, aren't they? This puppy, okay, we can see is a lot smaller, but actually we can definitely tell that's the same animal, okay? This here is completely different, isn't it? So we can see the young of an amphibian is completely different to that of the adult, whereas the young of a mammal is very similar, but much smaller. Why is this? Now, the reason for this complete change between the young and the adult, and that is because of a process called metamorphosis. Okay, it's a tricky word, try saying it. Metamorphosis. Okay, so using what you know, what you've just seen in that image, okay, what do you think metamorphosis means? Right, just pause the video and write a little definition. What do you think it means, just from what we've gone through to start with? Okay, hopefully you've written down some of your ideas. And let's have a look. Metamorphosis. Okay, so metamorphosis is a process some animals go through to become adults. It is a series of physical changes that completely change how an animal looks. So, like the tadpole to the frog, a complete change in that how that animal looks. So, let's have a look at a frog's life cycle. So, we've got here through the different stages. Okay, so we've got starting with frog spawn, then we go to tadpole. Okay, we have the back legs, then the front legs, then we get a small froglet into the adult frog. Okay, and then that cycle continues. So there it is, and this is an interactive taken from the DK Find Out website. Okay, it's really good if you wanted to go and have a look on there. So we start with mating, okay, and the male will fertilize the eggs as they come out of the woman, okay, of the female frog. We then have frog spawn, okay, so these are the eggs, tadpole, okay, we get this complete change here. This is where this metamorphosis happens, okay, between these sections here, 3 and 5, from tadpole to froglet, okay, and then into an adult frog. So, the female will lay these clusters. You'll have all seen frogs spawn, okay, and they have to remain moist. So, although frogs can live outside of water, they have to remain moist. So, they will be laid. If we're looking at the just a common European frog that we would see in this country, they will always be laid in water. Okay, and around them, the black part is the developing egg. So that is what you'll see will become more and more like a tadpole the older it gets. Okay, and this jelly swells up as it hits the water. So once the eggs are laid, this jelly layer swells up, and that gives it the jelly-like texture, and that protects them. Okay, protects them within the water. Now, the tadpole will begin to then take shape. First of all, within the egg, and then it will come out of the egg, okay, and begin to feed. Now, at this point, they've got gills, and the gills are so underdeveloped that actually they're outside of the body. So a fish's gills will be inside of the body, okay, but a tadpole's gills are outside of the body, okay, so they breathe through that. So they don't need to breathe air, they can breathe in the underwater using gills. And as they develop, okay, after about 4 weeks, so those external gills are now replaced by gills inside the body, and they breathe in the same way that a fish does by drawing water through its mouth out through its gills, okay, and it takes the oxygen out through its gills. So they don't have lungs at this point, okay, they're breathing through gills in exactly the same way as a fish would. Now, here we start to see some metamorphosis happening. Okay, we've already seen a little bit, the gills have changed, their internal now, but we get a change in shape of the head, and hind legs start to appear. Okay, so we start to get this real mix between tadpole and frog. Okay, and this happens between 6 to 9 weeks. And at this point, they'll start to eat other animals, okay, small pond life as well as plants, and they can also eat other tadpoles at this point if there's very little food. Now, between 9 and 12 weeks, the metamorphosis continues, and we have front legs, hind legs. We've almost got a small frog here, but with a long tail. So we've not fully lost that tadpole part yet, okay? But it is still forming, it's still changing. And then from 12 weeks, we have the froglet. Okay, the tail is completely gone, unrecognizable as a tadpole anymore, become a frog, okay? And now they will be preparing to leave the water, okay, and live on ground. So they still go into water, but they will mainly live outside of the water, okay? And as it goes between here, they've now got lungs developed, okay? So the lungs are developing here. They're breathing air, okay, in the same way as a mammal or a reptile. So they are breathing air in through their mouth. So they can no longer use gills. They've not got gills anymore. They've got lungs. So another complete change, okay? So there we go. The froglet, okay, you can see the size difference here, will grow into a full-size frog, okay, and once it's reached maturity, it will then be able to reproduce and the life cycle will start again. Now, that is the common frog, European frog. There are also, if you wanted to have a look, some weird and wonderful ways that frogs and toads carry their eggs, okay? So you can have a read about this, and maybe if you wanted to have a little look at those, you're interested in those, have a look at some of the weird and wonderful ways that toads and frogs manage to keep their eggs moist. Now, what I want you to think about today, okay, is those changes. What are the differences between the life cycle of an amphibian and a mammal? So I've given you some ideas here, okay, and what I want you to do is write a paragraph to answer that question. I want you to make sure you explain it clearly and fill your answer with the knowledge that you've gained. So don't just give me really simplified reasons, okay? Use everything that we've just learnt about within that video. So I want you to do two things. I want you to draw out the life cycle of the frog, okay? Draw out the life cycle of the frog, and remember you can go back and pause on that part of the video if you want. If you wanted to label it in more detail, that would be great. Then I want you to use some of these, okay? And there are more reasons, more differences here, okay? But there are some to get you started. I want you to put those into a paragraph. So not a group of sentences like I've got here, into a clear paragraph to explain to me how that's going to look. And when you're doing that, I want you to think about a couple of things. A or an, okay? So if your word starts with a vowel sound, so the sound of a vowel, then you should use an. So when you're using amphibian, okay, it starts with an a sound, doesn't it? So we're going to be using an amphibian, not a amphibian. And if it starts with a consonant, you should use an a. So when we use frog, okay, it starts with a f sound, we're going to say a frog, not an frog. So I want you to really think about that today. Okay, there are some examples: a man, a lamp, a cat, an apple, an eraser, an umbrella. Now, don't be fooled, okay, just by the first letter. It's to do with the sound, not the letter. So these words, okay, a euro, a university, a one, okay, because euro starts with a y sound, and a y sound is a consonant, okay. So just the letter, okay, we need to think about the sound in our head. An hour, starts with an a sound. Hour, although it's a h, it's a hour, okay? So think about the sounds clearly. And I've also again put these, you could use these as sentence starters or conjunctions within your writing to try and help you write your paragraph. Okay, explaining the differences between the life cycle of an amphibian and a mammal.